Yeah, I'm redoing this, and this time it will only be one video. I spent some time deciding whether to put this at the end or the beginning, but if one just wants the basic, let's say, statistics of it all, here they are. If I did all the information gathering right, and assuming I understood everything correctly, first, from 1992 to 2013, there were 66 to 67 Endbringer attacks. Second, of those, we do not have any information for 25 of them. Accordingly, we do have information on the remaining 41 or 42. When it comes to attack locations, we know for certain 38 of them. Two we kind of have info on, one is completely unknown, and one is speculative. As far as dates go, we know the year, month, and day for 40 of them. We only know the year and month for one, and the last one we don't have any info on besides maybe the assumption that it took place in the large time span between October 2003 and November 2010. On the subject of how many times each attacked, obligatory spoiler warning. Anyway, Behemoth attacked 17 times, Leviathan 13 to 14 times, the Simorg aka Ziz 7 times, Khonsu twice, and Tohu Bohu twice. Alright, enough of that. Before I get onto the rest, keep in mind that some will have varying degrees of extra information. On December 13th, 1992, the first Endbringer, Behemoth, the one that would be named the Hero Killer, attacked Maroon Field, an oil field located in the Khuzestan province of Iran. Note that until otherwise stated, Behemoth, for now, will be the only Endbringer attacking. On July 6, 1993, Sao Paulo, Brazil was attacked. In 1994, New York, USA was attacked on March 26th, and on the 1st of November, Jakarta, Indonesia. On the 18th of June 1995, Moscow, Russia was targeted. The attack on Johannesburg, South Africa on the 3rd of January 1996 marked Behemoth's final attack as the sole Endbringer. June 9th of the same year at Oslo, Norway marked Leviathan's first attack. Following that, on November 6th, Behemoth hit Cologne, Germany. Note, once again, that until stated otherwise, from this point Behemoth and Leviathan switched back and forth. 1997, April 23rd, it was Busan, South Korea. On September 30th, Buenos Aires, Argentina. 1998 had 3 attacks. January 18th was Sydney, Australia. July 3rd was Jinzhou, a city in the Liaoning province of China. And on December 25th, Christmas, it was Madrid, Spain. In the following year, on July 21st, it was Ankara, Turkey's turn. Now, while there may be and may have been other attacks that extended past the initial date, Leviathan's attack on Kyushu, Japan was one of those we have a bit more specific info on. It began on the night of November 2nd and extended into the morning of the 3rd. Something of note during the attack involved a fight between Leviathan and a dragon. Of note after the fact, Kyushu was partially sunk into the ocean, and said event, among other things, ended up forever crippling Japan. At the end of the century, humanity was gifted 2 attacks, Lyon, France on the 10th of April, and Naples, Italy on September 16th. The following 3 years each had 3 attacks. For 2001, Vanderhoof, British Columbia, Canada on February 25th, Hyderabad, India on July 6th, Lagos, Nigeria in December, also on the 6th. Saying 2002 was an interesting one is a bit of an understatement. It started out normal enough, or as normal as year-by-year mass casualty events can be, with Leviathan attacking Shanghai, China on April 23rd. Then, the attack on Bogota, Colombia on August 20th was, as expected, carried out by Behemoth. However, the final attack of the year was when the world was introduced to the Simorg, or alternatively Ziz, whichever one prefers. On December 30th, she descended upon Lausanne, Switzerland. Note the wording because if I understood it correctly, while she may have arrived on the 30th, what can be considered her quote-unquote actual attack occurred 3 days later. Said attack did include the expected destruction, such as buildings being psychically thrown around, the death of heroes and civilians alike, and radioactive dust from a damaged power plant. However, the last thing that came from it was, perhaps, what Ziz was most known for: her psychic scream, her song. In the short term, it made people panic and riot. But in the long term, it made sleeper agents, let's say. In the 6 months following her attack, those who heard her became belligerent, and then it all went wrong. Otherwise normal and good people from Lausanne would enact terrible actions in an effort to destabilize Switzerland, Europe, and the world. Eventually, by what seems to be the end of 2003, it was determined that the only way to end the chaos was to end those caught in Ziz's scream and song. They were contained and subsequently bombed and/or shot. It was quite unfortunate, but it was all they could do. Going forward, I will be using Ziz over Simorg. Moving on to the attacks in 2003, Leviathan attacked Seattle, Washington, USA on April 1st. Then, London, England, UK was attacked by Ziz on August 12th. Finally, Behemoth attacked Lyon, France again on October 3rd. From there, we have a gap of time where, by my guess based on the frequency of previous attacks, there could have been 5 attacks. After that, the next attack we know of occurred in 2005 on May 9th, at Newfoundland, Canada, by Leviathan. An interesting contrast to this event was how on one hand Leviathan sunk the entire island, but on the other, the attack helped create arguably the most powerful tinker. Once again, we have another even larger span of time, and like last time, I can only infer that there were probably maybe 18 attacks. Following that, the next known attack was on December 23rd, 2009. Ziz attacked Madison, Wisconsin, USA, and the aftermath for this Ziz attack was a complete quarantine of the city, with a constant rotation of capes and PRT personnel to monitor the area. Though people did slip out before said quarantine, one being a certain gaming club that found themselves far from home. The final span of unknown time is the shortest, and within that time frame, it's likely only 2 attacks could have occurred. Though, as long as there ends up being 25 unknown attacks between the 3 time gaps, there is a little bit of wiggle room with those numbers. Now, on the other side of the last time gap, we have an attack in 2010 sometime in November by Behemoth. As far as I know, the specific day and location remains unknown. The final attack before the beginning of the story was on February 24th, 2011. Ziz attacked Canberra, Australia, leading to the city being sealed under a dome. Well, here we are, within the main story proper. I suppose I should say it is major spoilers going forward. Speaking of, Brockton Bay, USA was the 56th attacked place. It happened on May 15th. I haven't brought attention to the map, but since it is Brockton Bay, I'll make an exception. So Brockton Bay was located on the east coast, specifically the New England area. Based on information from the link in the description, the places it could be narrowed down to are a bit of a mess. I recommend you read what's in the link, but suffice to say it's messy because quite a bit of contradictory information is given. To not reiterate what someone else did and said and whatnot, basically Brockton Bay was stated to be somewhere north of Boston, Massachusetts. However, based on various bits of clearer and more specific information given within the story, one of, if not the best place to put Brockton Bay is either as a replacement for New Haven, Connecticut, or more broadly, it could be located somewhere else in that same general area, in a place that's also of relative close distance to Hartford, Connecticut. For me, I'm just going to put it at New Haven. After that big event, we get another one at New Delhi, India. On that day, July 26th, Behemoth died, marking the first and only Endbringer death of the story. Perhaps in response to that, starting November 25th, the nature of how the Endbringers attacked changed. To kick things off, instead of attacking a stationary location, Ziz attacked flight BA-178 over international waters, specifically the North Atlantic. Note that the plane was destroyed, and because of who died in that plane, some sort of conflict occurred with the USA and UK on one side, and the Chinese Union Imperial, China, on the other. It was unclear how severe said conflict was. 2012 marked the introduction of two new Endbringers. The first was Kansu. Now, this is a weird one. While there was an attack on January 20th, and while the attack did begin somewhere in Japan, Kansu was a teleporter. So after their initial appearance in Japan, it teleported to 162 other locations, leading to 3 days of pursuit, ending on what I assume to be January 22nd. Following that multi-target attack, we had Leviathan attack Luderitz, Namibia on the 2nd of April. Of note for this attack was how Leviathan was targeting a specific person, and as such they would follow them to several other locations. From Luderitz, they went on to Swakopmund, Namibia, then Gamba, Gabon, then Pojonti, Gabon, and ending in Sulima, Sierra Leone. A short while later, Ziz would attack Manchester, England, UK on June 5th. Another short while later, Leviathan attacks for the final time in the story on August 15th. They initially attacked Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, but through fake retreats, they would also hit Cape Town, South Africa, and Perth, Australia. On October 10th, we get the second new Endbringer, which was actually a pair of Endbringers that acted together, Tohu and Bohu, and they attacked Bucharest, Romania. After that, we have the Simorgs, Ziz's, final attack in the story on December 19th. The target was Paris, France. 2013 had the final two Endbringer attacks. Kansu attacked and teleported all over the place again on February 5th. We don't know where they started, but we do know they only hit 29 places this time. I suppose I'll mention now that during one of the 2 times Kansu attacked, some place out in the wilderness of Alaska was a target. Now, perhaps by design, given what happens later, the final Endbringer attack that we know of within the main story was on May 17th. Tohu and Bohu attacked Los Angeles, California, USA. Nothing else is known about said attack. Alright, notice I said the last Endbringer attack within the quote-unquote main story. That distinction is why I said in the beginning that there were 66 to 67 total attacks, or 13 to 14 Leviathan attacks. To make a short story short, there's a thing called Weaver Dice, and while character actions in it aren't canon, various setting details are, for the most part, as far as I know. On the wiki, it's stated that Leviathan at some point attacked Oakland, California, USA. However, upon looking at where that info apparently came from, besides being negatively affected by Leviathan's attack on Japan, there is no, at least publicly and easily available information that indicates that Oakland specifically was attacked. That said, there is a sliver of information that implies Leviathan did at some point attack a location near Oakland, said place being Emeryville, California. Granted, I can see there being an argument for the idea that Leviathan touched down at West Oakland, and due to proximity, that led to Emeryville being sunk and wiped off the map. Which I suppose isn't that outlandish. Emeryville is a pretty small city, and to reference other attacks, Leviathan does have a history of sinking stuff. Though, that said, after inquiring with someone more familiar with the setting, there did not seem to be any indication that Oakland was ever directly hit by Leviathan. Nevertheless, it is up to you to take all that as you will. I only included it for completion's sake. If it was for certain Oakland, I'd still add that Emeryville was incidentally sunk, and if it were in the reverse, I'd say Oakland still suffered serious after effects from the Emeryville attack, as one would assume so. And that's a wrap. As a final thing, here's all the attacks when shown on the map together. Not perfect, but you get the idea. For lack of a better word, it's kind of funny to see what places got hit the most. Anyway, video is done. Well, the topic is done. For final statements and whatnot, yes, I'm going to redo the classifying parahumans video at some point. It is the only other video at this point I'd consider seriously redoing. Also, the reason why I'm redoing that topic, and did redo this topic, is because if you haven't noticed, I switched editing software to DaVinci Resolve. I've said it many times that I don't really edit my videos all that much, but at the same time, I like more options. Plus, I wanted to learn something new. Right. Lovely. Until next time.